Good evening. Good evening. Hello, my name is Michael Adolphus, and this is Amen Ministries Inc. on webinar series. And today we have a special guest, LaVonne Bost-Barksdale. LaVonne Bost-Barksdale, who's a real estate agent, and today we're going to be talking from the perspective of um, how COVID has impacted the housing market. So, good afternoon, LaVonne. How you been?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good, good.
So we had tough technical difficulties. I apologize. If it ain't one thing, it's going to be another. But we just glad that we got you on today. So pretty much without further delay, let us begin. Um, so this new so how did it all impact start with you as far as COVID and impacting the housing market?
So let me just start from back in 2020. So back in 2020 in New York, I'm not sure about other states, but in New York, we had a lot of restrictions put on us when COVID first started. So it was a little bit more difficult for agents in New York to do business for the most part. We weren't allowed to do a lot of things like cold calling, which is something we do, open houses, even showings. We were limited to how much we could do. So that definitely impacted us a great deal. But once the restrictions were lifted, or not completely lifted, but relaxed a little bit, the market went like basically I don't, for lack of a better word, it went crazy because everybody was trying to get out of apartments and get into houses with backyard space and office space and classroom space. So a lot of people started to look for housing upstate New York and outside of the five boroughs. But the problem with that is that a lot of people that were up there also weren't selling. So you don't have enough inventory for the people that are looking. So what happens is that a seller's market begins to emerge, and then you have what a seller's market is. This means that the seller is more towards the seller than a buyer. So the sellers are getting higher prices for their homes than what they're actually listed for. A lot of people were going above asking. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So my question is, why was they getting more prices for? Um, why were they getting higher prices for the houses during this time?
Because the inventory is low, so that's what we call a seller's market. So there's less inventory but more people that want to buy. So the sellers are at an advantage now, because if you are selling your home before we can get some of those homes on the market, they were gone. So if you saw a house on Monday, if you didn't act on it on Monday, by Tuesday or Wednesday it might not even be available to you anymore.
Wow.
So people were putting in bids, and then people were outbidding, and then they continue to outbid until the prices are way above. Like I actually lost a bid for $25,000 above asking, and my client lost that bid. So people were going 50,000 above asking. It was something we've never seen. I've never seen before since I've been in real estate. But this market hasn't slowed down at all either. So we're still in a seller's market. We're still seeing a lot of things going on and off, but not as quickly. We have some things that are still going off 1 day, 2 days, but then we have some things that are lingering a week or two. But for the most part, things are coming on and off unless it's an apartment. If it's a house, a condo, or something with some space, they're coming on and off very quickly.
So the question is then, what do you think was the impact as far as COVID? I know you said that it made the houses have left less inventory, but what other impacts did COVID have when it came to housing?
Well, that was, we have the whole thing where people are not able to pay their rents and mortgages. So that's another impact that we have that's on the housing market. But from a real estate perspective, it's just a lot of people trying to move, and we're trying to make sure we can find them something. So I'm offering additional information. Like there's help out there for people who can't pay their rent. There's help out there for people who can't pay their mortgage. If you need that information, you can reach out to me definitely, and I'll get that information to you. But COVID it has impacted the housing market. Like I said, it's just everybody wants to move now because a
Right.
lot of people are working from home. A lot of kids were going to school from home, and a lot of people just didn't have the space to accommodate that change. because that it's not been a thing in New York City, especially that people work from home the way we had to do when COVID first started. So real estate agents, a lot of times they go into the office when they make their phone calls. Now you had to figure out a way to do all of your stuff from home and not be in the office. We had to be very much more careful when we have an open house. We can't just let people come in and walk around like we normally do. We have to control traffic. So if it's a 2-level house, you have to have one family upstairs, one family downstairs, and you need a lot more agents to control the flow of traffic. You have
So
people who don't. I'm sorry, you're going to ask a
yeah,
question.
no.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say was what I was going to ask was that did you find a lot of people moving out of New York City, and if so, where were they trying to move to, and why did they prefer to move to that area as opposed to wanting to stay in New York?
Well, like I said earlier, a lot of people were going upstate because upstate has more open space. So you can find a house in New York, but most of the times it may not have a backyard, or it may not have a basement, or it may not have, the rooms may be smaller. So a lot of people are moving upstate. People are going into Connecticut. People are going to North Carolina. People are going places where there's space. So if there's enough space, that's where they're going. So you're not going to find too many people looking for an apartment here in New York in the, in the 5 boroughs, because if they have a larger family, they need more space now. So
But
COVID
is it
has
also
definitely impacted that.
so? Is it also the pricing in New York? So upstate is cheaper, you believe, or you
Upstate
know?
is definitely cheaper. But again, like I was saying earlier, everybody has over asking prices. So upstate may be cheaper, but it's still, you're still finding the same type of um, people going over asking price, people bidding higher than they normally would to get something that they really want. Because before, when it was a buyer's market, you just could, you on the market, you could wait it out until it was just sitting there. But now you have to act quickly. If you get an offer accepted, you need to do inspections the next day. If you can do it the same day, so we have to be really on top of our game to make sure that our clients don't lose deals. Because until that contract is signed, that house is still open. So you
Hmm.
could come in 2 days later with $10,000 more, and I'll get a phone call. We got an offer $10,000 more. Does your client want to go up? If you don't, you've already lost it, and you didn't even get it yet. So it's a lot of maneuvering and a lot of keeping all the balls in the air to make sure that your clients don't lose deals that way.
So did you find it where there were people that was trying to get houses but yet still in the sick, or they were coming in coughing or coming in um, you know not wearing their mask because they felt that they wasn't going to catch it. Did you see type of attitudes and behavior towards about COVID while looking for houses and while showing people different types of houses?
I will have to say no, because we have to enforce the mask mandate. We had to have COVID forms filled out saying that you hadn't traveled, that you hadn't been in contact with somebody within 14 days.
Wow.
You have people who will have booties like for your shoes in their house. You have people who require you wear gloves in their house. You have to have on a mask. As real estate agents, we have to wear a mask here in New York. So we can't go anywhere without our mask on. And we don't have to take you into a house if you don't want to wear a mask. You have a right to not wear a mask, but when you're going into someone else's home, you have to respect the rules of that house. So if that house has COVID guidelines in place, we have to follow those.
Right.
So you may find people who don't want to wear masks, and that's their prerogative. But when you go into someone's home, you have to follow the COVID guidelines.
The question I have for you is, when COVID hit, did you find that you were getting more clients or less clients? Did that impact you, and how? I know I asked you a couple of questions. The first question is, when COVID hit at first in 2020, were more people buying houses or less people buying houses?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, when COVID first hit in 2020, we were not allowed to do a lot of business. So
Hmm.
for me personally, I'm not a rule breaker. So if they say you're not supposed to call, you're not supposed to show, I'm not going to do that. So I really didn't start getting back into my business until they relaxed some of the restrictions. So for a few months, we weren't allowed to do any showings in New York. We weren't. It had to be a video. It had to be a video showing. So I could go to the house and get on FaceTime with you,
Right.
or if they had a video posted on the MLS or on Zillow or whatever the case may be, that would be your first showing for the house. So once the rules were relaxed a little bit, you do see a lot more people calling and saying, okay, I'm ready to move, when they weren't ready before, but now COVID has made it made more urgency for them. So it's a lot more urgent because, like I said, when you're working from home and the kids are going to school at home and you're home 24 hours a day, you have to do everything in that house, where normally they might go out to dinner a couple of times a week. That wasn't an option. So now you're cooking, you're at home, so you need the space now because you're all on top of each other. So a lot of people were trying to get into that bigger space.
So what was the type of houses people were looking for? People were looking for one family houses, two family houses. What was like three bedrooms? What were more popular in the housing market that you've seen or that you've been
It's
stuck?
it's not a popularity thing. It's about how big your family is. So if you
Mhm.
have two kids and a husband and wife, you may go for a 2 or 3 bedroom. But if you have 4 or 5 kids, you need a bigger place. So it's just a matter of your family size and what your needs are. So if you have grandma that lives with you, plus your 2 kids, plus you and your husband, you may want a 3 or 4 bedroom house or a basement that's a walkout basement, so that your mom can have her own space. So it depends on each person. There's no popularity contest in terms of how many or which one was more popular. It's just a matter of what the family needed.
Were you able to like determine which area were high in the COVID um, um, a percentage, and were in a place where you had to not go in those particular areas, or they didn't have those type of restrictions? All areas were accessible.
I don't follow what areas were higher or lower. I'm just going where people wanted to look. And I
Hmm.
just made sure I follow the COVID guidelines. So I have on my mask. Back then I was wearing my gloves. I had my sanitizer with me. If I'm doing open houses, we were spraying people's shoes with Lysol, and we were giving them hand wipes and making
Wow.
sure they sanitize, because you're going into someone else's home. So you have to, and then afterwards we try to clean up, like wipe stuff down with the Lysol wipes and things like that, just so when they get back into their house, they feel a little bit more comfortable. A lot of people didn't even want people to show their house because it's too dangerous back then. Now it's a little bit better because you have your mask on, but it's still not calm. Omicron, of thank goodness, is a little less deadly, so to speak. But back then, it was just a lot, and we had to just adjust and adapt to whatever the situation was at the time.
So what's one of the areas you adjusted? You said you had to adjust. How? What do you mean by adjust? Like, what was the change that you had to make?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we did a lot of work from the office, so we had to,
Okay.
pivot into our homes and working from your home, your car, wherever you have to find a spot to work. We can't go into the office like we used to, so our meetings now had to be transitioned to Zoom meetings. Our trainings had to be transitioned to Zoom trainings, where they mostly were in person. So we didn't have a lot of interaction. We used to have holiday parties as a real estate group. We used to have Thanksgiving dinner as a real estate group. Those things did not happen for the last 2 years. We haven't gotten together. So I've met a lot of people online that I see every single day, but I had not met them until recently. I feel like I know them, like they're my sisters, they're my brothers, but I haven't seen them in person until I was able to get on a plane, and I went to Florida and I met some people. I went to Atlanta, I met some other people, so, but we still have a camaraderie. It's just more of a video relationship right now until we can get out and spread our wings a little bit more.
So you did say that it's a little bit better now, and you have more access and you're freer. Are you finding more and more people are wanting to buy houses now?
No, it's still a busy market. That's not necessarily more or less. It's still a lot of people looking to buy. It's always, since COVID started, it's been a lot of people. And
Mm.
the inventory is still a seller's market at this time. So we're still finding that things like I said, are going on and off the market very quickly. The prices are going above asking. So, I don't think there's any difference. I think that people are still trying to find their space. A lot of people are losing bids, so it's taking longer to find their home because people are outbidding them. So it's just a lot of patience. I just got a card from one of my clients who should be closing next week, and inside the card it said, "You've been with us through all four seasons," and I hadn't realized that. I've been with them through the spring, the summer, the fall, and now the winter. And they're just finding a house and they're just closing on a house.
Wow.
But I had to stick with them because we kept putting in bids, we kept losing. We kept putting in bids, we kept losing. So we finally found that house, and now they should be closing next week. But you don't even realize how much you spend time with people
Mm,
until they make that point. Like I just got that card on Sunday, and I
wow.
was like, I had to write them back. I'm like, I really didn't realize we had spent all four seasons together.
So did you find that very frustrating? Like, so the first question is this: how many houses did you show them before they actually got this house during the four seasons? And was it
Tons. I can't even tell you how many. It's been a lot. Like we
over
used to see
10?
three and four. Oh yeah, we used to see three and four at a time, and we were going out
Wow.
mostly every weekend.
And
So
was
we
it in
would
the
see at
same
least two
area?
houses a time, and maybe three or four at each showing. So we saw a lot of houses, and we put in a lot of offers, and we lost a lot of offers too. So
Wow.
yeah.
So, I could imagine you having multiple clients, and this is happening in all the particular areas. So you're really tired. You're worn out. I mean, I could only imagine you start your day off. Because I remember there was a time when you and I went to look for a house, and we started our day off early in the morning, and we didn't get back. We didn't get back until like almost late evening.
Yeah, we had lunch and dinner together, right? So that's how it is. Like I spend most of my, especially my weekends. So I've been showing houses to one client that wants to look in Long Island, another client that's looking upstate. So I've spent my whole Saturday with that one person in Long Island, my whole Sunday with that family that's looking upstate. So I've met the girls, I've met the wife, the husband. We talk all the time because I have to keep sending them stuff, making appointments, checking their schedules. It's a lot of maneuvering. It's a lot, like I said, it's a lot of keeping the balls in the air, making sure that you're not skipping anything, making sure that you're dotting all your I's, crossing all your T's, to make sure that your client is getting the best service that they can possibly get. And it makes them feel like they're your only client, because you have to make them feel like, important. But I may have 10 or 15 clients, but each client gets that same type of service from me.
Mm.
So that's one of the things I pride myself on. I like to make sure that my client has a good experience. And if they don't, I would say to them, let me know, because I don't know what I need to change unless you tell me.
Wow. Wow. So the next question then is, what was some of? Can you give me a time when you was afraid during this period of trying to show somebody a house and the COVID adventure?
I
So
don't, I don't, I don't think I was ever afraid. I mean, I'm always worried that I could get COVID, and thank God I haven't had it this whole time. I've
right.
not gotten it, so I'm grateful for that. But I also have to, trust that God got me. I make sure I protect myself. I wear my mask. I wash my hands frequently. If I have to, I wear gloves. I do what I have to do, but I also have to make sure that I'm making sure that they are following the guidelines and that everybody is staying safe in the process. So I don't
Right.
want to say I'm afraid, but you do worry about it,
So what will be
because you don't
some
want to
of
get sick and then be around you, or whatever the case is.
right, right. So what would be an advice that you would give somebody if they're looking for houses during this particular season?
Just be patient, be made to understand that this is a seller's market, that you will likely have to bid on a number of houses. You will have to probably go above asking, and you should take the advice of your agent, because we are going to do what we call comparative analysis, and we're going to tell you what the houses are worth. But we also, like for me, I always will find out, are there offers on this house already? If so, how are they above asking? That's the only thing they can tell me. They can't tell me how much they have, what the offers are, but they can tell me they're above asking, or they're at asking, or we have 5 offers right now. So you have to understand that, and then know how to approach it, because somebody can give two exact same money offers, but if you do waive something or you make it contingent on something else, that might be a better offer, even though the money is the same.
Right.
So you have to be strategic in how you put your offers in as well. So you just have to trust your agent that they're doing the best possible job for you, and take their advice when they give it.
So the best strategy then you're saying is that during this market, you have to keep in mind that you may have to bid above the asking price if you want to get the house. But you being the agent, you are able to see how many offers that are already been made, so that way the person won't just automatically assume that they should just above a bid above the asking price.
Right. I'm always going to ask that agent, that listing agent, do you have any offers on the table? They're going to either tell me yes or no. Are they above asking? They're going to say yes or no. That's the only information they can give me. So now I have to be like, okay, so you have offers on the table. So I'm going to go back to my client. If you want this house, we have to bid this particular way, and then it depends on the situation. So there's no one particular way to bid. It's just dependent on the situation. But, it's how much do you want it and how much can you afford? Because you have to understand too that if you bid above and appraisals come back low, and then you have to come up with the difference or whatever the case, you have to be ready for that. So there's a lot of questions and asking that we do, and we have to look at bank statements, and we have to decide how far can you go. We're still going to be doable for you, because we don't want to put anybody in a situation. So we might put in an offer, we're going to win or lose, but we have to be ready to, if we win, be ready to follow through with that. Because once you sign contracts, if you back out for any reason that's not a valid reason, you could lose your deposit.
Wow.
So I never want that to happen to my clients. So I explain everything to them. I have the mortgage lender explain their portion of it to them. I try not to we don't waive certain things, because that could put you in a even bigger situation. But you have to just be strategic in how you do things.
Somebody just now mentioned Linda Scott. She says, you absolutely have your stuff on point as a realtor.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
And you
And
have
hi,
somebody.
Tracy. I see your message. Hi, Tracy.
So now, what so can you break down the different types of down payments that that we can give and why?
So I think you mean the kind of loans, because the
Right.
loans kind of
Okay.
depend. Okay. So you have FHA and conventional, basically. So FHA has you have a FHA loan, or you have a FHA 203K loan. So FHA, basically you have to put down about, usually 3.5%.
So what do FHA mean?
It's a federally funded loan. I can't, off the top
Okay.
of my head, I don't remember what it means.
Right.
I really don't remember what it means. I'd have to go back and look it up. But
Right.
you have the FHA, which is government backed.
Right.
So the guidelines are a lot stricter for that. So if you have an FHA loan, you can't have peeling paint in that house. You can't have, if there's some stairs and there's a piece of a railing missing, it's not gonna. You have to get that fixed. So a lot of people in this market, especially, don't want to accept FHA, because that means they would have to do repairs. A lot of people are selling their homes as is,
Mm.
whether they're in good condition, bad condition, or terrible condition. It's as is, and they're not willing to fix anything, because in this market they really don't have to,
Right.
because they can sell it. So if you have an FHA, now you're required to do certain things, because FHA is not going to pass it if it's not done. So that's a lower down payment for you, and a lower credit score required to get it.
So what's the down payment? 3.5, I believe.
3.5%. Yeah.
Okay, as a down payment, and they don't require you to have a high credit score. Is that first time homeowner loan, or is that something different?
I'll look it up while we're talking, but I don't remember. There's so many things in my head sometimes. It's just too much information up there.
Right. So then you
But
mentioned that,
let me just see. Yeah, it's I'm looking it up right now, because honestly, I
and then you
don't
mentioned,
want it. The credit score is 580.
okay,
You need a 580 credit score, and that's the lowest you could have.
right.
And it doesn't even tell you. I'll find it. I'll put it in the chat after this. I'll definitely give you that information.
But so the benefits of an FHA loan is the low down payment that's required to get the home, right?
Right. And I guess you could say it's good for first time home buyers because a lot of them don't have a lot of money saved.
Right.
So, if you don't have a lot of money saved and you can get a house with 3.5% down, that's going to be definitely better than the conventional loan where you can go up to 20%. You should, when they say you have to put down 20% sometime.
So what's the interest on the FHA loan?
The
Is it
interest depends on the interest rate at the time.
okay?
Yeah.
So all
It's
right.
not set interest. It's the interest at the time.
So what's the next type of loan you mentioned?
So the FHA 203K loan is
Okay.
basically a 203K loan means that if you find one of those houses that need to be repaired, you can get a 203K loan and you can build the cost of repairs into the loan.
Okay.
So then you have to have a licensed contractor that comes out and does the repairs and the money comes from your loan. So if you buy a house for 250,000, your repairs are 50,000, your loan is going to be 300,000
Wow.
minus your down payment.
Right.
So that's because you're using that money to fix your house.
So what if I don't know any contractors? How would I?
Well,
Does
the mortgage people usually have contractors that they recommend because they have to be licensed. So they usually recommend somebody. Or you can find a licensed contractor and have them go through the process of being approved by the lender.
so pretty much what you're saying is that I can't have my friend who I know is a carpenter come in and fix it if he doesn't have a license.
No,
He
he might be good at his job, but he has to be licensed
he has
to
to be
work on
licensed.
a FHA loan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then so now there are other types of loans. What are the other ones you just
You have a
mentioned?
conventional loan,
Okay.
basically.
What does
So
that
a
mean?
conventional is just it's just a regular loan that you need at least a 620 credit score to get a
Okay.
conventional loan.
Uh huh.
Oh, another thing about FHA, if you file bankruptcy, you can get an FHA within 2 years, but you can't
Okay.
get conventional until 4 years have passed. So if you file bankruptcy and you want to buy a house in this 2 years, you would have to get an FHA loan. You wouldn't
Okay.
be able to get a conventional loan. But a conventional loan, like I said, 620 credit score, usually it's 20% down, and it's less restrictions because it's not a government backed loan.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then the convention loan. What's the benefits of a convention loan?
Conventional, and it's basically like I said, the FHA has is much more strict.
Okay.
Conventional loans are not. So
You-
you're not going to find the appraiser coming in and saying, oh, there's spilling paint here that has to be fixed before we can go forward. Oh,
Right.
this railing is this or this is that. That doesn't happen. You have a home inspection, the appraiser comes out, they appraise the value of the home. If the FHA, they have their own appraisers that come out because they have to look for certain things because the government is backing that money when it's FHA.
Mm, mm.
So that conventional is always going to be better, but it's a little bit more difficult because your credit score has to be higher and your down payment is going to be higher unless you have then you end up with mortgage insurance if you don't pay the 20%. So
Oh, okay. So the mortgage insurance is for what? What's the purpose of the mortgage insurance?
because you haven't paid the 20%, so you're going to have an extra payment on top of your principal interest and all the other stuff you're going to pay when you're paying your loan. You're going to
Right.
also have money mortgage insurance because you
Okay.
haven't paid the 20%. And there's one of them, I don't remember which, so forgive me, but one of them, once you get to 20%, you can have that mortgage, that extra payment removed, and one of them, it just continuously stays there.
One of the things I've heard is that when you first buy a house, I think the first couple of years, the mortgage is going towards the interest and not the principal. Is that true? And
That's
explain.
true on any loan. If you
Okay.
any loan you take out any almost any loan you take out, the beginning parts you're paying most of the interest. What
Okay.
I suggest, and if it's something that's doable, you can make an extra payment, but you just have to specify to the bank that you want that payment to be applied to your principal only, because that helps you at the end save money, because you're reducing the principal, which means you're paying less interest because the principal's lower.
Right.
And then you could pay off your loan faster too if you were able to do it. So if your loan is manageable and you can pay another extra payment, and it doesn't have to be every month, you can make an extra payment here or there. You just need to specify you want that payment to go towards principal only.
Mm, mm. So the next question I have is, what are some of the and before I even begin, audience, if you have any questions, by all means, type it in, and LaVonne or myself will ask, and she will do her best to answer questions. But what are some of the areas that you find most people? I know you said upstate, but what areas specifically are places that a lot of people are trying to move to? I think you also you're licensed in Connecticut as well, correct?
I am.
So, what are some of the areas upstate that people are looking to move to, more popular to move to, and the same as well as Connecticut?
I don't think there's any place that's necessarily popular. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's Westchester County, Rockland County, Orange County.
Right,
I'm not going. I don't go further than that though, so I wouldn't know anything past there
right,
because Orange County is up in Middletown and up in those areas.
right,
That's already an hour and a half away from where I live.
right.
So I go certain places. So in Connecticut, a lot of people are going into Bridgeport because Bridgeport has a lower price point, but Stamford and all those places are closer. If you work in the city, you can get to the city much quicker from Stamford and Greenwich and areas like that.
Mm. So, what kind of advice would you give somebody trying to buy a house in this particular season?
Again, says just be patient and trust your realtor and understand that this market is not uh it's not, I don't want to say unforgiving, but it's not a market for a buyer. So if
Mm,
you're selling something, then you're in a good position. If you're buying something, you have to be ready to spend a little bit of extra money, or I would suggest you wait a little longer. Or we look at stuff that has been on the market longer than a couple of days, because then those are maybe easier for you to get. So I found some places that are on the market longer. Those places are a little bit easier to get because that means that people are not putting in offers on those places.
mm,
So and that happens every so often. So you just have to, and I don't want you to look for stuff like that because there may be a reason why people are not putting in stuff offers on it. But you just have to, just be patient. And when it's your time, it's your time.
right,
The house that you want is going to come. You just have to wait until you find it, until we can get it for you, and we will do our level best. Me and all my realtor colleagues, we're going above and beyond, making sure that you get what you desire, and we keep looking. I don't give up. If you want to keep looking with me, I'll keep looking with you.
question. This might be a I don't know if you want to answer this. What was the worst case scenario client that you had experienced? And don't say me. Like, what was the worst case? Like, they got on your nerves, you couldn't take it, or have you practiced patience where you can deal with any client, or are you able to share?
I don't. I haven't really had any horrible experiences, to be honest with you. I mean, I have people who don't follow through, but that's just the nature of the business. This business is like any other sales business. You have people who say, "Oh, I'm ready." They raise their hand, but they're really not ready.
Right,
So you have people that you will nurture and work with and work with and work with, and then they'll call you and say, "Oh, I had this other realtor show me something, and I bought it." You're like, excuse me, but what can you do? It's
right,
like, because for us, we don't get paid until you find something and close on it. So we could
right.
work with you for months and months and months and
Wow,
months, and you back out, and then
wow.
we don't get paid. So and that's just the nature of the game. So it is, it's just something you have to be prepared to deal with, and we just learn how to deal with it. I don't call anybody a bad client. It's just maybe they're not the client for me. It doesn't make sense for us to work together.
Right.
So that's okay.
So you
It's
have to
fine.
have a lot of patience to be a real estate agent, and you have to have a lot of time on your hands. I know you have a day job, plus you do this, as a part time,
Well, I'm
but
not even part time. I do this
full
full. I
time.
do this because I mean I work during the day, and then I work during the night, and then I work
Wow.
all weekend. So I'm working in the morning before I leave, making sure I have a list of things I need to get done. So on my lunch hour I'm working. When I get out of here, I'm out of my job, I'm working. So I never will consider myself part time because I'm doing full time stuff. What is she saying? Lower the asking price for the buyers to make needed repairs. Oh,
So
yeah.
read the question. Read the question.
So, have you ever had a seller lower their asking price for the buyer to make needed repairs? We do that all the time. Actually, is we negotiate the price. So, if you have stuff that needs to be fixed, we can negotiate the price and say, okay, well, let's take $5,000 off the house, and that makes it the buyer's responsibility to get that stuff done when they move in. We do that all the time. I do it. I've done it several times. So even on my own listings, I'm the listing agent, and I'll be willing to reduce the price because my sellers are saying it's as is. So we'll reduce the price a little bit. We do it a lot. So yeah, that happens, Linda.
Do you find the owners of the house more willing to do that or a little resistant to do it?
It's 50-50. Some people won't do it, and some
Okay.
people say you take my price or we'll go to the next person. And
Right.
so you can't be as demanding in this market. You can, if they say no, you're like, well, to your client, are you okay with that no? If you're not okay with that no, then we need to walk away because they're not going to budge. So
Right. Now I remember a time when you and I were trying to purchase a house. Not you and I. You was finding a house for me to consider purchasing, and one of the things that made it hard for me to get the house was because a lot of people had cash as to buy the house, and so therefore I'm coming with a loan, and they had cash for the whole house. It made it eat. People would rather go to them than to come to me, or So are you seeing a lot of more and more of people buying houses with cash, or is that just something that's one off or two off?
I mean, I have a cash buyer. I have two cash buyers right now. So I mean, people people are buying with cash, but there's people with cash and mortgage, so they put up a lot of cash and then the rest is mortgage. But I have two cash buyers on that I'm working with right now.
Mm,
One should be closing in a couple of weeks. The other one waiting for signed contracts.
right, right, right. So the question I also have for you is this: um, the commute. What are some of the things that people should consider? Because a lot of times people just buy houses because they want to be in the I have a house. I'm happy to have a house. But what are some of the things that people need to keep in mind when they purchase a house? Like, for example, how far is it from your job? Transportation. Is this a good area for children, et cetera, et cetera? So, what were some of the things that you think people should consider when buying a house?
All of that you just said. Because
Oh, I said it
it's
for
like
you.
they need to think if they have children, the school district, how the schools are.
Right,
They should investigate the crime rate. They should investigate the cost of their travel, the time that they spend traveling. I always tell people if you're going to move into a neighborhood, I suggest you don't just go there in the morning. You go drive through that neighborhood at different times of the day so you can see what's going on in your neighborhood at night. That neighborhood might be nice and peaceful at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but come dark, it's a different story. So you might want to go through there and check out and see before you start putting thousands of dollars on the table. Because
right,
I've had people say one lady bought a house. She wasn't a client of mine, but she was saying she bought a house and the neighborhood seemed so nice. And she was gone within a year because at night they would be shooting and all kind of stuff going on.
oh,
So she was like, this was in the Bronx. She's like, oh, I couldn't stay there. So you have to be mindful that everything is not what it seems like during the day. So go through those neighborhoods at different times of the day. Get in your car at lunchtime and drive through. Go there at 9 o'clock at night. Go there at midnight. See what's happening. And
right.
then you can get an idea, see who's in the area. It's just a lot of different criteria that you need to keep in mind. And it's all relative to what needs you have. So
So you said something earlier. You said that some people they are not ready, right? So when you say ready, um, does that have different aspects like finances? I'm maybe what do you mean by ready?
well, if you're not ready when in certain ways, sometimes the credit needs to be worked on.
Okay,
Sometimes they don't have enough money saved.
okay,
It just could be mostly is those two things because those two things play into or if you just started a job and it's been less than 2 years, a lender might not be willing to give you a loan because they want to see 2 years work history 2 years tax returns, two pay stubs. They have to see it's the twos. So they want to see all of that. And if you don't have those things, then they can't give you a loan. So that means you're not ready. So I spend time with clients like that working on their credit. I'll go and look at their credit and see where we can make some adjustments or pay off some bills or bring this up and take that down so we can get their credit where it needs to be. You need to save money. Do you have a 401k? Do you have a pension? Because you can borrow money from those places in order to pay your down payment and closing costs. Sometimes there's money available for first time home buyers, but you have to meet the criteria of those programs. So I have a lender that handles first time home buyer grants. So I will send that person to him so he can evaluate the situation and tell me what they need. And then I'm working with a family now. They need their credit needs to be adjusted, needs to go up. And it's only off by 20 points. So we're trying to figure out how we can get them up to that 20 points so we can get them
Right.
started.
So you said a grant. So you
They
saying
have
that
first time home buyer grants. Yeah. They will give money to people that's first time home buyers. You may have to go through a class or something like that, but they do have money for first time home buyers. It's not never ending money. Like it's a certain amount of money. And when
right?
it's finished, it's finished. And then they have to wait till the next time they replenish it.
Well, what are the criteria for that?
Oh, there's different criteria for depends on the person, but I know you have to have a 620 credit score, at least a 620 credit score, and then you have to go through certain classes and the other criteria I would have to go over with the lender. He
Right.
did a presentation for us. I have his notes somewhere, but off the top of my head, I don't remember all the criteria.
Okay. So now I have a question. When you go into a house, what is the main areas that you should look at before um before purchasing? I mean, I know you look at the house in general when you go in, but a lot of times, like for me, my weakness is the backyard. I need me a big backyard. If I see a big backyard, I'm googly eyes for the house, but that's not really a good selling point for most people. So, what is something that people should look at when they go in to purchase a house?
That's something that's relative to that person. So they might want bigger bedrooms. They might want two bathrooms. They might want a finished basement or a walkout basement for extra family member. So it's not any one particular thing, but what I will say is once you're ready to purchase a house, you should have a home inspection. Your home inspector is going to point out things that need to be done right now, that need to be done soon, or that can wait. So you need to have that home inspection done. If you waive it and you have some issues after that, then that's going to be something that you're going to have to deal with. But if you have a home inspector come in, they're going to look at the mechanics of your house. They're going to look at the roof. They're going to look at the foundation. They're going to look and they're going to test your water. They're going to test your outlets. They're going to recommend GFCIs if you don't have them. They're going to tell you, what's going on with your house. And then you take that report and you make a decision based on that report whether you think this house is the one you want to buy or if it's going to cost you more to upkeep it because of what all the stuff that they're pointing out. And it may be nothing wrong with the house. It may have some mold in the house, but how much mold do you have? Is it easily remediated? Like there's a lot of different things that can go wrong with a house. So
Right.
I always recommend a home inspection and whatever is relative to you that is what you're looking for is what we should be sending you. So if you want a master bedroom with a bathroom and I send you all houses that have no bathroom in the master bedroom, then that's not what you're looking for.
Right.
So
Um, you said the inspection. Now the question is, during the COVID season, have you find inspections being delayed because people are not getting to them because they don't want to go outside? Or I mean, like when COVID first hit compared to now, have you found inspections delayed? No.
they were delayed, but not because of COVID. It's because there were so many people buying houses that the inspectors were overwhelmed.
Mm,
They had more inspections than they ever had at one time. So they it's just them. Most of the time, they don't have huge companies. It's maybe one inspector. Some of them may have bigger companies, but most of them are very small. And they usually can do a couple of inspections here. But now they were having so many that it was taking a little bit longer to get on their calendars. So, you have to have a couple of them. So that one can't do it. Let me call this guy and see if he can do it, because you want to get these things done quickly so you
Right.
can get that contract signed.
Do you think that there's a mental component to buying a house? What I mean by, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. I don't want to lead you. Do you think that there's a mental component, um, uh, a mindset of being aware or being comfortable or confident?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I really don't know how to answer that.
So let me rephrase it then. Um, I was asking you about being ready, and you mentioned about finances. You mentioned about, credit rating, but also what about mentally being ready? Because under the impression that it's not just paying a mortgage when you buy a house, there are other components that you're going to have to deal with that can be draining mentally to you when you purchase a house. If the roof begins to leak, that's a problem, or if there's plumbing, that's a problem, and all these can wear on a person's mind. So, right back to what I'm saying, the being ready and the mindset. What kind of mindset should a person have when they go and buy a house? Because I know for me, like I'm thinking, I never thought of. I'm thinking when I go buy a house, everything is gonna be brand new and it should be working fine for for the next 5 years. I shouldn't have a problem for the next 5 years. But there's some people as soon as they get in the house, they have plumbing problems or stuff like that. So that's what I mean by mental space.
Well, I mean, I think you should be prepared for those things, and that's why you do inspections, so you know what might come up.
Right.
Other than that, I really can't speak on somebody's mental state and how that plays into them purchasing. I really don't know. I honestly don't know, because if you're ready to buy a house, then you're financially ready, and usually you have money left over, that if things come up, they come up. But I don't know how else to answer that question, honestly.
Right.
It's the way it's everybody's different. You
Right.
can't put that on one person and say that everybody is it's going to bother you. It may not. They just say, okay, well, call the plumber. I mean, the pipes are messed up. Call the plumber. Okay, well, the boiler needs to be repaired. Okay, let's get a new one. Like, so it's not. I don't know how to really answer that. I don't know if there's a mental component to it. I can't really
Right.
say yes or no to that.
Okay. All right. Any advice for you said a few things before, but because it's getting a little late, we don't want to keep people too long. Any advice that you would want to give to people that are listening if they're looking to buy a house during this time?
Call me. Well, I mean, I gave the same advice already. It's the same thing. Just be patient. Understand that this is not a market where you can just go in and say, I want that house, and actually get it. If you have to be strategic about how you're doing things, and trust your realtor, work closely with your realtor, make sure they're aware of everything that's going on, because we're going to keep you posted. We're going to keep you updated. And so if something's going on, I do have one piece of advice, because this goes back to something that's happening right now. Do not, I repeat, do not do anything without clearing it with us, especially with money. Because if you move any money in during the transaction, during the home buying process, it's going to delay your closing, because now that money has to be sourced. And what I mean by sourced is they have to be able to see where that money came from and where it went, based on your bank statements. So if you have $10,000 in cash under your mattress, you cannot go put it in the bank right before closing, because you're not closing with that money. You're not closing with that money. You'll be $10,000 short for your down payment, for your closing costs. Bottom line, because they have to know where that money came from. Under your mattress is not a good explanation. So
So
you can't do that.
so basically, and this is good. I'm glad you mentioned that. So basically, I should have money in my account for at least 30 days, so that way they can see that it didn't just fly in there out of nowhere.
If you have $10,000 in your house, let's say, you should, before you even consider buying a house, you should start putting that money in the bank. Because then at least as you put it in $1,000, you can say that I got $1,000 from my paycheck and put it in the bank.
Right.
But you go and put $10,000 in the bank that didn't come from the IRS, didn't come from your pension, You don't have a piece of paper that says somebody gave me $10,000. Here's the check stub. Where did you get this money from? Because a lot of times way back, people were using buying homes to clean up their money.
Mm.
So now, after that whole 2008 thing, they put a lot of new rules in place. You have to source that money. So you can't put money in a bank account and think you're going to use it. My client just went and transferred like $6,000 from a 35 account, and then 4,500 she had. She is now $4,500 short for her closing costs
Wow.
because she can't use that money that she put in that bank. So
Wow.
now they are working on a way to make sure she can get that money somehow. But it just delays things. So if you're thinking about doing something, before you do it, give us a call, give your mortgage lender a call, give your attorney a call, and say, I'm getting ready to go and purchase a car. Should I do that? Probably they're going to tell you no. Don't go buy all new furniture for your house. After you close, you can do that. But during that, because if you put any money on a credit card, it's going to change your credit. And then they while you're in the home buying process, they're checking your bank statements, they're checking your pay stubs constantly. And then right before closing, they check it again. And if something changed, they have to go back and look at everything. So it's going to delay. So you want to be sure that you don't do and make any big purchases, apply for any credit, put any money in the bank that can't be sourced or anything like that. You want to make sure everything is on the up and up, and that we can see that $10,000 was his tax return. So the IRS gave him $10,000. That's where it came from. We have to be able to know where it came from. One of my coworkers, his client had something happen to his tires. So he went and got a card and got new tires. His closing was pushed back 2.5 weeks because he did that.
Wow.
It wasn't long, but he was supposed to close the next day, and he couldn't close the next day.
Right.
Because he put those tires on his car.
So if people have more questions and wanted to reach out to you, what's the telephone number that you would want them to call you and reach out to you on?
347-728-8652.
Let me see if I can write that in.
So Tammy, Tracy, Lisa, somebody type my number in the chat.
347. What's the number? 347
728
728
8652. Lisa just typed it in the chat. Lisa put it in the chat. So
okay.
That's my North Carolina agent. Thank you, Linda.
Okay, so this is and what is the name of your of the firm that you work out of, the company that you work out of as a real estate agent? Sorry.
I have my own LLC. It's called Building It Together, but I work for It's brokered by eXp Realty. So eXp Realty is a global company. We have all 50 states plus India, Africa, Mexico. We have agents everywhere. So if you need help anywhere, I can get you somebody in that area to help you. Right. I have agents on here right now from North Carolina, New Jersey, Atlanta. So you have anybody, need something there, just call me. I'll hook you up with my realtor buddies over there. Yeah.
So final words, LaVonne, and when we close out, stay on. But final words that you would like to share with anybody before we go.
I just want to thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on, and letting me have this conversation with people, because a lot of times I think people don't understand what we actually really do, and we do a lot. We try to make sure we do a lot for our clients, and we this is not an easy job. It's a difficult job, but we love it, so we don't mind it, but we know it's a lot of work. And yeah, buildingittogether.com is my website, but Lisa is buildingit-together.com. So if you could change it for me, that would be good. Thank you. That's my website. But just make sure you trust your realtor, work closely with them, and they will make sure they do the best job for you, because that's always our end result. We want to make sure that your dreams are realized and that you get what you're looking for. And it makes us feel good that we can help you do that. So that's our end goal. And that's what gives us the most joy, is to make sure it's to see the smile on your face while you're signing all those papers and take those pictures afterwards and take you out to dinner or whatever the case, whatever we decide to do for you. We just want to see that smile, because that's the best feeling in the world, to say, I own this house. I'm not a renter. I don't have to be beholden to a landlord or pay somebody else's mortgage. This is my house. You build generational wealth when you buy real estate. So that's something you could leave for your kids, or if they need it, they could sell it. You can just do so many things with real estate. It just only appreciates.
Right.
So yeah, that's my thing for people.
You know what, LaVonne? Hopefully, maybe soon we'll try to get you back on to just give us more information about other things that we can do with real estate. I want to thank you for taking this time to share the tidbits you have about your experience with COVID and the housing market. I want everybody to know that we'll be having a webinar series for the next couple of weeks on how COVID has impacted different particular areas. I believe next week we'll be talking about how COVID has impacted domestic violence and other things we'll be talking about. So by all means, we ask that you continue to tune in on Wednesdays at 7:30. We had some technical difficulties today, but by next week, hopefully things will get fixed. And LaVonne, I want to thank you for taking this time out to share with us. And by God's grace, everyone, we'll hope to see y'all soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.